My playgroup decided to leave the comfort of 5e and we tried out Pathfinder. But like with anybody who's started out with 5e, looking at Pathfinder 2nd edition, it really seems daunting. But now after running a few sessions and playing in several, in general, I just want to give my overall first impressions, overall opinions of the game. So first off, we're going to start off with character creation. When you're looking at the character sheet, the Pathfinder character sheet compared to the 5th edition one, there's a lot more boxes, a lot more modifiers you need to fill in general, just a lot more information that has to be present on the page compared to the 5th edition character sheet. And for newer players, whether you've played a RPG before or you're coming over for 5th edition, this is probably going to be your biggest barrier to entry. Luckily, Paizo has introduced a beginner's box, which does an amazing job of walking players through how to build a character. One thing I noticed that was a big difference between 5th edition character creation and Pathfinder was that there is a considerable amount of choices. So there are some similarities. You still need to pick a class, you pick a background, and then you have species options, which they're called ancestries. You have more options in those options that further customize your character. So when it comes to actually building the characters after going through the beginner's booklet, it's actually pretty easy. At least that first character is probably going to take you some time just because you really just have to learn where do you put all the information. One of the biggest criticisms for 5e's onboarding is that it's hard for DMs to even run the game compared to the beginner box for Pathfinder. The dungeon is designed in a way to actually teach the players and the DM how mechanics work. And in terms of just building characters in both systems, I have to say Pathfinder 2nd edition probably has the best character building experience between the two. The sheer amount of options you get to choose, the level of customizability, at the same time, your decisions that you make, even if you're attempting to optimize, still allow you, and you still have to play as a member of the team. Jan Karis brings up, and then there's archetypes which expand customization even more. Yep, character creation, it really is all about choice. And on the outset, it looks very, very overwhelming, but as soon as you get into the system, it's really not the case. What I saw was that the system does a really good job of limiting your pool of options. Each level has a set of feat options you can choose from that are of that level, and then they also present options that are obvious upgrades to previous choices you made. We're going to talk about combat now. For me, my biggest issues with 5e's combat is that it's really slow. There isn't really a lot of variety in your actions. Teamwork isn't necessary whatsoever, and monsters also don't feel dynamic. Pathfinder, on the other hand, does address some of these issues for me. Pathfinder's 3-action economy system doesn't speed up combat, but it actually makes it more fluid. Pathfinder, you never really feel like you're losing out on using all your action economy. Actions are varied. They range from skill-based actions that do have impact on combat. You have your standard attack action. You have other attack-oriented actions that manipulate the battlefield. You have also defensive actions, and then you have spell and magic item actions. So there's just a lot of different things you can choose from. I find that the 3-point system is really freeing, still allowing you to play your role while also giving you the freedom to adapt to situations in combat. Another thing though is that the action economy system does make the classes feel balanced. Marshals have a lot of actions on their turn and they become very tactical. They kind of remind me of Battlemaster fighters. They have all these maneuvers that allow them to manipulate the battlefield, but they don't lose their mechanical identity. They do it in their own way. Having marshals actually feel powerful, but also not dominating the game is a welcome change. But also when we look at spellcasters, they don't dominate the game either like they do in 5e. The point action system does really limit how much they can do in a turn because a lot of spells, with a few exceptions, cost 2 to 3 points. So this is pretty much, if you're going to be a spellcaster, that's the thing you're going to do. You really are spellcasting. But the big thing is like, due to the action economy system, like in order to get any sort of advantage in combat, you legitimately have to work as a team. My group is still sort of learning this, is that with 5e we can brute force everything. We're just like, well, these are bag of hit points, we're just going to keep attacking this thing and it will eventually die. In Pathfinder, I don't know how many times I whiffed. Like I just missed just because I needed these incremental advantages. I needed my buddies to come in and do a shove, do something to actually be able to take stuff down. Ket says Pathfinder 2nd edition needs more teamwork. You also need to think a bit more. Hazards are no joke and getting down isn't a nothing burger like 5e. Yeah, everything matters. I think that's what my team is learning, is like really trying to effectively work as a team. All right, in terms of crunch, let's go to crunch. I'm not sure where I land on this. I don't know if I enjoy it. It's something I'm really getting used to just because I am coming from 5e and I'm used to playing games that have some crunch, but not like this much level of crunch. So I'm not sure if I'm having fun with it, to be honest. And I think over time I kind of will figure out, it's like, yeah, this is going to be the thing. Like this, I like this level of crunch, this level of choice, this level of options. There is a higher level of tracking compared to 5e. The things that my group was actually struggling with straight up was conditional modifier bonuses, status conditions, and weapon traits. First off is conditional modifier bonuses. This is I would say the equivalent of 5e's advantage disadvantage system. Instead of having a very simplified, you get to roll an extra d6, or excuse me, you get to roll an extra d20, take the highest or the lowest. Instead, you're going to be adding bonuses to your skill check or attack rolls based on the circumstance, a status effect, or a magic item in your possession. I'm trying to remember which modifiers were active at any given time and when actually not to stack them. I forgot a lot. We forgot a lot. So what I mean by stacking modifiers, so there is specific circumstances where you can actually stack modifiers. You cannot stack modifiers of the same type. So for example, if you had 2 effects giving circumstance bonuses, they don't actually stack. Instead, you just take the higher bonus. Another example is if you had an effect giving a circumstance bonus and an item that provided a bonus to your attack roll, you actually can stack those. Biggest downside to advantage disadvantage is the lack of nuance. It's simple and easy, but it comes at the cost of having fewer knobs to turn out as a designer. Agreed. Advantage disadvantage is very easy to grasp. It's a simple system, but there is a lack of nuance, and that lack of nuance does remove a level of engagement that I think this 3 status bonus modifier system allows you to actually have. Status conditions, I don't think we're ever gonna not struggle with them. We struggle with them in 5e and trying to remember what every single one's supposed to do, and I don't see that changing for Pathfinder. They're a lot more elaborate. What I mean when they're more elaborate status conditions, there are some that are similar to 5e where they just have a static condition that this is what happens, but then there's also status conditions that are modified and have a severity of impact. The other thing we're struggling with, but I don't think it's so much of a negative, is the weapon traits. The weapon traits are actually, weapons are sick. It is something though we definitely going to need to take time to learn, because weapons have multiple traits doing various different things, but the weapon traits actually make weapons feel different. They don't feel like they're just a different damage die size. They actually do different things. It's another lever to turn in terms of your character's build. It's just though, I think where my group falters, since we're not used to using that level of modularity with the weapons. Just trying to remember what each trait did and if it actually applied in that situation. Pathfinder, 2nd edition, or 5e. What do I think is better? What should I be choosing? To be honest, this is probably going to be a cop-out answer, but in general, I do like both systems just for very different reasons. I think for me, 5e's biggest strength is also its biggest weakness, is that it does give a framework for playgroups to become big damn heroes. It's a weakness too, is because you have to build that experience because of the level of modularity it has. Unfortunately, Wizards does not put out enough content to support things, or when they do push out content, it's very underdeveloped. So you have to modify it to build the experience that your table is going to want. Pathfinder, 2nd edition, what I like about it is it is a very deep game. It's ready to go out the gate. You have a bunch of tools at your disposal just to help you just run the game. Like you just have everything you need. I find that both games do want to answer how to play a fantasy game, but I also don't think they're competing with each other, even though they're answering that same question. I honestly believe they're going after different audiences. 5e really wants to go after casual players or players that want to lean a little bit more narrative while still having a touch of crunch, while Pathfinder 2nd edition is for folks that really want more options, that embrace crunch. They do like crunchier games. They like more tactical games, but also are looking for a system that understands it's still a game. For now though, it's really too early to tell if this is going to be like my group's like permanent system. We're having fun with it now. We're going to keep running our Ebron game as a Pathfinder 2nd edition game. Will we go back to 5e? I don't know, but the cool thing is that playing Pathfinder 2nd edition, especially after all the OGL stuff that's coming up, made me want to play TTRPGs again.